Hello, beautiful people and fellow whiners, and welcome to another episode of A Little Something to Whine About with your host, Siobhan Camille.
And Taye Michelle.
Where sips get real as we chat, laugh, and debate about life, relationships, and so much more over a glass of wine.
Normally.
It is, as you all know, it is Fifth Wednesday, which means we are Journey to Fitness. It is our dry episode. We still gonna wine. We just gonna wine with water, tea, sparkling cider, and everything else under the sun. We are so happy.
Agua. It's the
Pino de agua, as was said. And some tea. We are happy and excited to have with us Miss Alma Derricks of Rev, founder and managing director of Rev. And we are going to discuss today, and we still celebrating, Black Business Month, but we're going to talk about mental health, the fitness of your mind. So grab your water, Pinot de Agua, tea, sparkling cider, and join us on the couch.
Hey, y'all. Hey, y'all. I hope y'all are having a wonderful week. I hope you've been getting your gallon of water a day. Don't look at mine right now. I'm a little behind, but it's okay. It's all right. I'm doing today was an okay Monday, a Tuesday, whatever day. It was an okay day.
It is hump day, so that would be Wednesday.
Hump day. Look, look, it's been a week though. It has been a week though. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we are extremely excited to have our guest here. And before we jump in our topic, we're going to let her introduce herself and tell all of us of all the minty things that she's involved in. Miss Alma.
Thank you, ladies. So nice to be here. Even without the wine, you'll have to have me back so we can sip some wine, but we're going to sip some tea and spill some tea today. So that's kind of what this is.
Yeah. It's getting real either way, okay?
Either way. So Alma Derricks, as you said, I have my own consulting practice, my own boutique consulting practice. I focus specifically on helping companies. The easiest way to describe it is helping companies find their version of Legoland. So doing brand extensions. It's not as easy as it sounds. Legoland makes it sound easy, but
Dream World.
You can do it badly. You can really overextend yourself. Before all of that, I've had a really windy career through media and entertainment, through strategy. On both ends of the spectrum, I was a partner at Deloitte in the strategy practice and worked with media, technology, telco companies, hospitality companies. On the other end, I've also been an operator, so not just advising, and places like Cirque du Soleil, where I ran all of the, ran sales and marketing for all of the resident shows. So that was Vegas and Orlando and a little bit in Cancun. So I've seen it, seen the business space from—
She's done it all.
From an operator's perspective, I've seen it as a consultant. I've done big consulting, and I've run my own solo practice like I do now. So there's a lot of mental health going on, trying to
yes
and keep it all going. So that's where I come from.
Yes. Look, so what she telling y'all is she done been from the rooter to the tutor. So she knows the whole thing inside and out. So you won't get a better reference, okay? But we're gonna talk about mental health. Y'all know in Journey to Fitness, we really focus on, like, y'all know, we like to moan, groan, complain, sometimes the word that rhyme with itch, about our journeys and what that looks like physically, and your muscles hurt, and we've talked about
yoga, Pilates,
music and yoga and Pilates and all of that, where all of that is great and it's necessary. And we're gonna get back. I'm gonna get back to what I'm supposed to have been doing. But another part to that is your mental, because you have to know your why. Like, why am I causing myself through all these pains? Why do I want to do 200 push-ups? Why? What is my reason there for this? Is it for the stereotype? Is it because I like it? I don't. Is it because this is what everybody doing and I want to follow the fad. Like, what mentally makes you get up and do these things? And how does that make you feel? Like, what are you getting from it? So, we like to explore all of it, physically and mentally. And honestly, mentally is a lot more weighing on this journey, because if you're not mentally there, no matter what your motivations are, if you're not motivated mentally, then you won't get up. Speaking from experience, you won't get up and do anything. So when we speak of mental awareness and mental health, Miss Alma, tell me, what are some things that you have seen in your wide experiences and in life, in your career, mentally, that drains, pulls, weighs down, and starts to prevent us from being the healthiest that we can be mentally?
Oh, so many things, right? I mean, it's been a traumatic couple of years. It's been a traumatic, then add a couple more years to that and a couple more years to that. It has been hard. So I think that the first thing is to just acknowledge that. You have to find a way, you have to acknowledge it, but you can't be crippled by it. But you have to actually just stop for a moment and accept how hard this, especially, I mean, look, we're coming right out of COVID. I mean, let's just put that one on the table, right? I mean, it's everything in everybody's world flipped upside down. And so we power through things. We're strong. We find ways to get through and to get over, but you have to at least acknowledge how painful that is. You have to acknowledge the realities of the things that are pushing down against you, whether it's because you're a woman, whether it's because you're a brown woman, all those things are coming back at you too. And again, you can't gaslight people. You can't just sit back and pretend that stuff's not happening and that it isn't impacting your journey and impacting your success on that journey. So I think the first thing is to just acknowledge that. I've worked in a lot of places where I'm the only one or one of a few of my kind, and that's not always on the radar for people who are in majority cultures. They just don't see that. They don't see that extra bit that you're having to do, that extra tax that you have to deal with when you're the one that's different. But the thing that, I think that's the first thing, just to acknowledge what you're up against. And then I think the number one thing that we do wrong is just and this is, I think, a woman thing mostly, regardless of color. I think we underestimate what we're capable of. And I think we sell ourselves short. And I think in doing so, it creates a lot of frustration. It creates a lot of anger. And I don't think we push forward and sort of project ourselves as much as we could. Now, again, there are reasons for, back to what I just said, there are reasons for that. We get pushed back on when we try to push forward, but you have to not let that get in your head and not let other people's expectations of you get in your head. And what I've found is that you have to find ways to use being different to your advantage when you can. Doesn't work all the time, but I've been fortunate enough, and I think I didn't realize it originally starting out in the earliest days of my career, but I did start to figure out that I was allowed to be different, especially when I was doing things related to innovation and growth and what's next, whether it was doing internet stuff back in the 90s, being the person who's seeing the future. You were allowed to be different. And in fact, the more different, the better. I could almost ride in on a horse and throw a bow. They expect you to be this wizard, magician, to be, that you better not look like everybody in the room if you're going to come and be the wizard. Creative. And that started to, I started to realize oh, that works. That works in spaces that are new and different and greenfield and forward, where there are no rules, there are no hierarchies, the politics haven't set themselves. And when you're the only one who knows something in a new space, they don't care if you're purple. You just get to run in that space.
You get
And
it.
I think that when that started to gel for me, I realized that there were places, you know, and especially some of the rooms that I was in at Deloitte in very, very big companies, I was invited into rooms that I wouldn't have been promoted into.
Mm.
I was allowed to be there as an advisor. I was allowed to be there to ask questions and poke and prod and come at it from an angle. I probably never would have survived the ladder to get there, because when you do that, when you're sort of working your way up a ladder, you're competing with the people next to you. It's about how you fit in. It's about how comfortable you make people. I was allowed to come in from the outside as an advisor and be, you know, in the nicest possible way, ask tough questions.
You
You
make
know,
people as uncomfortable as possible with a smile.
but they pay for
those jobs.
it. You're paying me now. You're paying me to come
You're
ask you
paying me to do this. So absolutely, I understand. So when we acknowledge it, and after we acknowledge it, we go, I'm not going to sell myself short. What are some steps that we can actually like put in place to make sure that we don't revert back to that?
Mhm. I think the most important thing is you have to have evidence, right? It can't just be your opinion of yourself. You have to keep in mind, whether it's in a job or whether you're doing something as a consultant or it's a gig project or something, you have to keep in mind that you're amassing evidence of something that you know how to do. And so the thing that gives you the power to say to a company, to say to a boss, here's what I'm worth, here's what I accomplish, here's what I do, is that you've got measurements. So take, for example, if you were in sales, if you have a sales position, if that's your job, it becomes very clear, almost one-to-one, that you sold X hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of something, right?
Mhm.
That is objective evidence. And the more objective, you know, objective works for you when you're different. Objective sort of helps kind of clear the air on the subjectivity about he's in the right fit or she's not a right fit, or, you know, she's not someone I'd have a beer with or a glass of wine with. Like all of those fuzzy things go out of the window when you are the top salesperson, or whether there's some number or metric or something. And I think that trying to stay close to, not everyone is in sales and not everyone has a number that's that clear and that's that objective, but always think in terms of the result. Always think in terms of what the outcome is. Always think in terms of how, you know, you were given a project and it started at A, and then you came in and did this and it ended at B. You know, there's been something very useful in my head in thinking like a consultant, no matter what I do, meaning that I think in these kind of little short, you know, sprints of impact. You know, what's it going to look like in 6 weeks or 8 weeks or 2 months? And then you sort of do it again. But you start to amass a story and you start to amass things that you can use as evidence for where you sit and what you know. And no matter where you use that, that's the story that you want to tell. I think a big mistake is, you know, in a workplace, it's easy to just do a little bit of everything. You know, you help clean up the kitchen and you help on birthdays and you do all these things that are a part of the environment that you're in. And it's a part of just being a good citizen in a space with a team. But you can't do that at the expense of being able to demonstrate some kind of value back to the company that usually is tied to the money that the company makes, either saving money or making money. It's all companies do.
Right. So when you talk about it's easier, you came into Deloitte and you were able to be in a certain space, right, that you wouldn't have been promoted in, or coming into it with objective data, essentially. But we've all worked in companies, for companies, where we know that culture, though, that company culture thing is not objective. It is not about stats and data and facts, right? Like, it is very much these two people watched Survivor or the water cooler talk group, and they all watch the shows that we don't watch or that I don't watch, or we're talking about the music that he doesn't listen to, or it becomes a cultural thing. And that can weigh down when you feel that even if I'm bringing all of these stats, even if I'm bringing this value, I have my value that I'm bringing to this company, it can become, you feel like a peg or like a cog in that wheel instead of a human, because you don't fit in that culture. So, and that can be draining mentally, right? So how do we, let's spill some tea on what are your suggestions, and how would you deal with the culture that's not that objective, because it's not.
Look, sometimes you can't fix the culture. I mean, this gets to the next point, which is about options. I start with the idea that things are likely to blow up wherever I am. And that comes from, look, going all the way back to the internet, back in the early days of the, startup internet stuff in the 90s. You lived with the expectation that this little thing that you're playing with could blow up. This had nothing to do with being brown or being a woman. Just that's what it was. People were taking huge bets, making huge bets, taking huge risks, and things just went away. Some things worked, some things didn't. And you just, I got used to the sense that, this could make it a year, this could make it 20 years. We don't know. We're just going to do our best and kind of push ahead. And so I think part of it, Siobhan, is you have to think about having options at all time. What's your plan B? What's your plan C? For me, starting my consulting practice, that happened in 2000, 2 recessions ago. We're on several recessions back. You probably remember.
I know, right? I'm about to say, wait, which recession? Because I'm grown now, and I remember folks.
Right?
I was getting out of college during one, man. That was rough.
Right. You missed it because you weren't having to get a paycheck, right? But in 2000-ish, the internet just blew up in everybody's face, right? And I had to purge my resume of every E, every dot, every I, anything that had anything to do with what we know as the internet today had to be purged. And so you had to start all over again and hope that there was something left once you purged all those things off of your resume.
Right.
And at that point, I had to go, okay, so what can I do? And luckily I was just old enough, just had enough working experience to go back to traditional media things for a while. And then the internet kind of continued on, and then eventually it popped up again. But for those 5 or 6 years, I had to go back to doing traditional media stuff, which luckily I had some credentials in. Having one of the things I would say that has improved or reduced my stress level the most is, since I did that, and since I learned how to go out into the world and figure out how to pitch myself and do projects, I never worried that if something blew up on me that I couldn't step back into that role. And I think another thing that psychologists write about this, but one of the things that creates the most stress and desperation is just being painted into a corner. And if you get stuck and, if this job means everything, think about that culture you're talking about, Siobhan. It's bad. You don't watch the right shows. You don't go to the right bars. You don't drink the right, all that. And you're on the outs, but this is the only job you think you have. Then you end up having to put up with that. That creates frustration and bitterness and anger. You're not going to progress in that environment. They're already pushing back against you. And now you're getting angrier and angrier as it goes. So you're not going to do well in this environment. That environment is toxic for you. You have to have a plan B, a plan C, a plan D at all times. And I think that's especially true the more different you are. What I say to people, the more matching pieces of luggage you are carrying around, the more plan Bs and Cs and Ds you need to have on the other end. And whatever that is, whether it's going back to knowing that you could do this stuff as a project person. If your plan B is, I know I could be a barista at Starbucks, but I could do that and I could at least get over until I find the next thing. I think if you have in your head some comfort that you are not going to, lose your apartment and lose all your money and lose everything you have because of this one job, and you're not clinging to it, you turn the tables, and now you've put this back in your own hands a little bit, because it's going to be the case. And look, I'm pretty jaded about the fact that I think most environments are not going to be hospitable. Most companies are not well run. I've seen a lot of companies. I'd say 25% of them are well run, and the rest are just treading water. So I assume going into a space that it's either going to be badly managed, toxic in some way, or even if it's not toxic to everyone around me, it might be toxic to me because I'm coming in as someone who's different by 2 or 3 dimensions.
Right.
And so if I start there and, it's not about being negative, it's just being realistic. And once you've done that, I know that if something blows up, I can always shift right back to this company that I started. The fact that I have it all set up. I have bank accounts. It has a credit history. It's been around for 20 years. I can just shift right into it and start a project tomorrow with someone.
Right.
And knowing that gives me a lot of peace. And so I think it's not just about being an entrepreneur. It's not just about starting an entire business. That's big. But even just the ability to understand your own worth. What is it that you know how to do?
So pretty much you gotta have options. Y'all remember that pivot that I be telling y'all about? It applies to your mental health too. Okay. Being able to switch it up, being able to have a different outlook on something or change your perspective per se on something. And you're speaking to my soul because I just went through all of this with the help of my sister who was telling me one thing and I was like fighting her and she was like, no, but you got to, and that don't matter. And I was like, but it does because, and I'm like, and these people are not seeing and I do this, that, the other. She was like, okay, well, then you need to put that on your resume. And I was like, but I don't have, and she was like, I told you what to do. So eventually I got my mind right, got tired, said a prayer, and girl, doors just started opening. And I was like, look at God, but thank you, sis, because you was telling me.
But I think but to that point, and we went through her getting a new journey together, off camera and a little bit on camera. But it speaks to your point because part of what I had told her was what you had said, and it was said to me when I went and applied for the job I have now. And they were like, what made you apply to this position? And I was like, I gave my sister the advice that was given unto me when I was transitioning myself 2 years ago into my current role. And I was reading all this stuff about getting hired and all of this stuff and researching. And to your point, Alma, about women taking things differently, there was a whole article that changed my perspective, and it was that women don't apply. It was that women don't apply unless they check every box. If there's a list of requirements or, even the like, let's be real, we've all seen whatever your search engine is for jobs, the requirements and then the would be nice. Women are like, I need to have all the requirements and the would be nice because we are still mentally raised to believe that we have to be twice as good. And that goes beyond women. I mean, there are other groups that feel the same way. But I remember when I read that, and then it was like, but men don't do that. Men will have 10 things on a list and they'll check like, oh, I'm definitely here for 3, the other 7 I figured out, and they apply. And I was 100%. Like, you know what? I'm gonna just start applying then. I'm gonna be a man real quick, okay? People think I am anyway because my name, people can't figure out Siobhan is a girl or a boy. I'm gonna be a boy today. I'm gonna just apply, okay? And that's how I got my current job. And I remember my boss at the time, because she's transitioned to another department, but she was like, what made you apply for this job? And I said, well, first of all, it was something I understood, like multimedia associate versus learning technology associate, which is what I technically am, but that's not how that was worded. Cause I was like, yeah, I probably wouldn't apply. I don't know what that is. But then I told her and it was down to, I just was like, I didn't even read necessarily what it required too much. I read more of like what the job itself is. And I was like, that's interesting to me. So I'm going to apply. And I was like, and I told her about the article. And because I work in, professional training, she's like, oh, I read that article. So that was like a conversation she and I had. And I took that to my sister when she was doing her whole, I don't have a degree, I don't want this, and they gonna want this, but I don't do this, and I didn't get, and I told her, like, it's not all about the paper, honey, you have the experience. Right. What is it that you actually do at your job? Well, I do this, and this. What is it that they want you to do at another job? Well, they want me to do this, and this, but I haven't done 2 of the 20 things they listed.
I said, no, it wasn't, I hadn't done it. It was, I don't know what that is.
Well, that was part of it. Because yeah, that's the
I
other
don't
thing.
know
People
what
word
that
stuff
is.
weird. Like, I don't know what that is.
But you make the case, right? You make the case with what you've got. If there are 20 things and you've got 18 of them, you make the case for those 18. You
Yeah.
just go in there and sell those 18 like crazy. You don't have to lie and say, yes, I know
No,
how to, or something I have never seen. I don't know what that is. But look, you 18 out of 20 is a majority of this job, and I can knock every single one of these outside of the park, and I'm sure I can learn the other two.
yeah, and that's what ended up happening. And I was like, oh, I can
Worked,
do
right?
this. It worked. It worked. So thank God. And then I was like, hey, you be keeping people in my ear. So my sister, I was like, girl, I got, like, she was probably like the first 2 people I told I got the job. Like, oh my God. But yes, to that point, and instantly for me, it showed me how much I was underestimated myself. That was one. And mentally, honestly, after realizing my value outside of myself, because I knew what I could do, but someone else seeing my value and seeing it to a point of X amount of dollars or X amount of this, or we want you to do X this, no, we trust you with this, and them not even knowing who I am. It mentally, it triggered something else in me. Okay, well, if that worked here, how can I take these same principles and apply them here? So where that has worked here, now I'm in the transition of, okay, now I got to get back to, for me, my physical workout. You know, I've done this. I see. I've seen my stress levels go down. I've seen how my interactions with certain people have changed. And I guess it was just like a trigger, like that small trigger that was just like, oh, well, if this worked here, how does this work here? Well, it relieved the stress here mentally. I'm still a little strung on this side. What can I do now to mentally, where's the trigger? It got me to look into where the trigger was on the other things, to bring that mental down to where it can be some type of balance. Because I am, like I've always said, I'm one to believe that when one is balanced, it's something that's generally lacking. It may not be, it's not in disarray, but it's lacking. So it's a beam. You gotta, you know, and you're never always here. It's always a give and take type thing. So for me, that's what that was. But just as women, when we get in those high tense, high stressed,
High pressure
moments, I don't think we realize how that triggers us internally, like physically. You know, from hormone levels to blood pressure and sleep, yes, you know, and how all of that then just has a domino effect on us. I think now we're becoming more aware and more, because you're hearing it more now, with mental health being such a big thing right now, which is great. I just don't want us to get so caught up on mental that we forget about physical, because they're hand in hand on that.
So how do you make peace?
Yes, that's where I was getting. But that's where we need to go. Like, okay, we acknowledge, we see, we make the pivot, make the change. Oh, we stop undervaluing ourselves. Now what?
Look, and I want to call out something that you said that's really important about, and this is about making peace and keeping peace as well. You said that both of you were there to look out for each other and give each other a lens that you didn't have at that point. You couldn't see it for yourself, and we all need that. I need it to this day. It's not something that gets better over time. I don't think it goes away. I think none of us see ourselves exactly the same way, and you need people to hold hands with that know you that well, and they're willing to tell you those things and to help you see it. And I think that's a huge part of kind of just keeping yourself in perspective and helping to understand, you know, for yourself where those strengths are. I still do this to this day. I was just having a conversation with someone that worked for me 5 years ago. But what did I do well and what did I do poorly when I was your boss? We're still close. And I was still asking that question. And I trusted, because this is someone I'm now very close to, that I was going to get an answer that was meaningful. Right. And so you're still kind of asking without it tearing me apart, it wasn't about tearing down my self-esteem. I really wanted to know. You were sitting there in the seat, and I know you well enough now that I know you won't lie to me. Tell me. And so I think that what I just want to just highlight, we need those kinds of voices. We need those people outside of ourselves, because all the stuff that we're talking about that rattles around in our head, we are the worst at it. It just bangs around, and you have to get outside of yourself. I think that's a huge part of making peace with some of this. You have to get some realistic feedback. And I think and I love what she said about, once you felt that control, once you stopped having that stuff rattle around, you applied, it worked out, then you feel a little bit stronger and a little bit stronger. And now you can look at other things. I mean, look at how it compounds and it builds on itself. And so I think a part of that, trying to move forward is just getting those moments where you get these little wins. And taking a moment to acknowledge those little wins that happen. Like, I was right about this thing and it worked. And I took, I was proactive about it, and this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. And it helps you absorb too. Another part of making peace is absorbing when it doesn't work. You probably applied to several things. They all didn't work out, but the one you wanted worked out, and all you need is one yes at any given time for the most part. I don't need 22 yeses. I need one yes.
No. But look, I had one yes, and then this yes came through, and I was like, "Oh, for real? Are you serious?" I told you. I said, "I don't think they know." And she was like,
"Told you so."
Right.
And I'm quick to say it. I'm not even going to pretend that I'm a better person. I'm not a better person.
Loves to say it. She's not that person.
I'm not a better person.
Not that nice.
I'm not a better person than that. I will tell you that I told you. So,
but I told you that, and I'd be like, okay, yes, I know. You did. Yes, you did. I'm sorry, but I'm here now. I'm with you now. I see it.
Right. See, once you feel that, you don't go back. You can waver, but in general, you just keep getting stronger and more confident about things. You know what you know at that point, and no one can tell you differently. And that's the kind of thing that helps you in your heart of hearts. Just know, that like Siobhan, you mentioned, again, a toxic environment, a place where it's just not working out. That gives you the confidence to go, someone said this to me once, you just need to go be successful somewhere else is what needs to happen. It's not fair. And that's not giving up. I mean, how many times are you going to bang your head into the wall with the bad water cooler and the toxic environment and the people who aren't supportive? There's a point at which, you're outnumbered. You really are. And you're not going to change the culture. You're not going to bend it in any kind of way. And so that's when in your head, you keep doing your work and you start back to the plan B, plan C, plan D. I think that's another thing. We don't give up. I think sometimes we mistake the idea of being, of sticking to something and kind of pushing through it and surviving it. I'm going to change. Sometimes it's just not going to happen. It just, you're outnumbered, and you have to know when that happens. And that's where the comfort of going, okay, I know I can go do something else.
Or we just get used to enduring, right? Like, I think we as women especially are taught to endure. I mean, your body can give birth, whether you choose to or not. That's an enduring situation, right? You go through menstruation every month or every however frequent that is. You endure. And I think we get to the point where we endure. And I'm speaking this from myself personally, because I know the only reason I left my old job, God made it so uncomfortable that I just couldn't, it was like, yo, I don't leave, I'm gonna go to jail. It got so uncomfortable.
And I would be like, no, we're not going
to my spirit that I was like, yo, I can't. And it's so funny because the boyfriend, as he is now known, I would be on the phone with him all day at work, or with Michelle, or with our other sister Erica, because I couldn't deal. Like, I had an office with a door, and that door stayed closed. And I will never forget, the boyfriend and I were talking about this the other day, and he was like, I knew you were ready to leave the other job because, and I remember this moment. Somebody, I said to him, hold on. Somebody was calling me on my, my internal line. And I said yes. And they were like, hey, can you do the whatever report? And I was like, nah, I'm not gonna be able to do that today. I'm working on this. Oh, okay. Do you know if you'll be able to get it done? I said, I mean, if it's not pressing, this is like a Tuesday. If it's not pressing, I might be able to get to it by Friday, but I'm just swamped. Oh, all right. Well, that's fine. Okay, cool. Hung up, got back on the phone with him. I was watching like How I Met Your Mother on my laptop. I mean, I was doing some work, but I was like organizing spreadsheets. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, yo, and he just bust out laughing. He was like, in that moment, I knew you were done, because that's not your work ethic. Like, anybody that knows me, that's not my work ethic at all, to be like, yeah, I don't care anymore. Like, if I've gotten to that point,
something's wrong.
Something's wrong. And that's when I knew it was time for me to go. I was that uncomfortable that it was making me not who I am. That it was yo, it's time to go. And to that point, what it took was me going back, getting a certificate in web design and development, which I kind of use, but more so being in what I tried to tell my sister when she was going through her job hunt, being willing to take a risk, man. Like, that's how you make your way to your Zion, whatever that happens to be for you, is being willing to take that risk. Like you said, if you need to be a barista, I couldn't do that. My bills were too big and it was just me. I wasn't gonna be able to barista nowhere. But I'm so uncomfortable here that I have to move on. Like, I have to get out of here for my own sanity and health, because y'all are turning me into a person that I'm not. And
you don't need to wait until you're just about crazy. You can roll that back. You can leave a whole lot sooner when you see, how this movie is going to end. That's another thing that life teaches you.
Yes.
I can see right here, right now, I can see how this is going to play out. Yeah. I know it from here, and I don't want to take that ride again. And I know when it's time to just, again, you don't stomp out, you do things that are reasonable, but you, at that point, you sort of know, I need to find the next thing. I need to start looking around.
Yeah.
Don't wait till you're on, at your wit's end about to kill somebody. That's just not. Talk about not mental health. That's the opposite of mental health. Like, that's taking control of the circumstances around you. I don't think anybody likes feeling like a victim. No one likes feeling like they're being pushed and pulled. That nothing takes away your esteem and your happiness and just your sense of self, as that sense of just being victimized by this place. So you have to turn it around. You have to turn it around.
Absolutely.
They're not going to do it for you. Remember, they hate you.
They will run you dry and say, oh, I didn't realize after the fact.
Oh yeah.
After the fact.
Or then it's one of those people don't see when you're provoked, but they see when you react.
Yeah. But like you said, we persevere to the point, our game face is so good that we can be on the verge of a complete breakdown and no one will know. So that's another problem. I mean, if you were waiting for your boss to go, Siobhan, are you, we should talk, can I help you here? If you're there putting on your strong girl, game face all the time, like we've all learned to do, then no one knows. You've done a really good job hiding the fact that you are going crazy inside, And so in their defense, the only thing I will say is, if they had an inkling about reaching out to help you, you didn't give them an opening.
Oh, they knew. They knew I was out.
Asked how you're doing, you're like, I got this, got it. And you just put on that face. So, that's the other side of that resilience thing that can be really damaging if you just are tamping down all these things that are really hurting you on the inside.
Right. And I think it's like I said, especially lately, people are starting to say, no, I'm not strong enough to handle this. No, I can't do this. No, this does hurt. No, I feel backed against the wall. I think I'll speak to us as women, because that's who I have seen most of it from. I've seen it from some males, but most of that I have started to see from women. No, I'm not that strong Black woman. I'm soft on the inside. I'm mush. I'm hurting. I have other feelings. Strength is not me all day long. I'm weak over here, I struggle. To me, that in itself takes a level of strength, which is so weird, because you would think that you should be able to say, no, that hurts, like I can't do that. But it's so weird to hear a woman say, no, I can't say that I'm weak, I can't say that. And you're like, but you're human, you're not, invincible, woman. But it's so mind-blowing, because we're so trained to, we can take it on the chin, we can endure, to literally see us saying, I can't endure this anymore.
Well, you have to have
I
somewhere
can't
to say it. The only thing I'd say is that you can't let that out at all times. There's
Right.
in a
Right now.
workplace, you will never see me. I will never break.
Oh, absolutely not. You got to know who to do it around.
Where you have to have that outlet. Absolutely,
Right.
you have to place that safe place you can go to and
Right.
say those things out. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I think that's another place. For a long time, we didn't have it wasn't advertised to have those safe places. I think that now that because that's become more of a conversation globally, more those spaces are now have become available. Even to the point where now, your jobs are starting to give people mental health weeks, mental health days, and things like that. Oh, where you feel you can't just take a mental health day because you need to literally turn your brain off. So I think that speaks to the growth and the direction of where we're going. You absolutely cannot, if you are listening, please understand. No, we are not telling you go in your job and go, oh my God, I can't take this. This is just too much for me. Don't do that. Don't do that.
I mean, unless you're really there, I'm not going to say you not do that. I don't know your job. If your job, and I'm only saying this because, like, I know people who, ever since, because of COVID, either people left because they didn't want to do the vaccine for whatever reason they didn't. Either people were fired because companies were in the middle of downsizing, and the people who were left were literally given, you have the job, not even this isn't in my job description, but literally that's not my job. Like, now you have, okay, I need you to handle chemicals, and I need you to be the janitor, and I need you to be the trainer, and I need you to be, like, to the point where if you are really there and you've been doing that for a year plus, because some people haven't gotten, even if they have on the books mental health days, haven't really had the opportunity to take them because there's nobody to cover for you. You really do need to tell somebody, because I remember, like, in the 90s, I wasn't working, okay? But I do remember, like, on TV, like, the whole thing about people going postal was a legit thing. Postal workers were going crazy, y'all. They was running up in the buildings and shooting, like, everybody, because they got to that point. And we had a couple over here in Maryland not too long ago. Didn't make the whole national news or anything, but there was a factory that 5 people got shot up. People are getting, so if you really are on that level, maybe, don't go in there balling, but I don't know you. I don't know how much you can take that you can't. I think what we're coming to Michelle's point, I think what the bigger thing is people are realizing and having to acknowledge that your workers are human beings.
100%.
They're human. And I think because COVID forced everybody to realize the humanity of the person across from them, next to them, above them, their subordinate, their superior, whatever, that we all have this thing called humanity, especially because for a lot of us who went virtual, you're now in my house through a screen, through Zoom, through Google Meet, through whatever platform, WebEx, you are in my house. You hear these kids in the background screaming, I can't be here, man. I gotta go. Hold on, give me a second to go get my kids some food. I have a husband here who I have to do whatever. My dog has to go outside. I'm here. I don't have a babysit. I think humanity came, right? And I think people are just forcing, especially like the younger generations, are forcing people to hold on to that. I'm a human. I'm still a human being, like, which is why so many people are against going back to the status quo of the way things were before.
100%. I mean, look, I think the only difference is that if I saw that and I'm on the edge, you can still go to a boss and say, here are the things that are happening. This is acceptable, before you burst into tears yourself. You can still go and have that conversation about, here's what I'm seeing. Here's what I'm seeing around me. Let me put this on your radar in case you missed it or you're trying to avoid it. Here it is. That's how I approach it. You know, just that's me. You know, I wouldn't go in and say, I'm really terrible. There's no
I mean,
part of
I'm not
me.
that person either, but I don't want the people that are that way to feel bad that you're that.
Oh, no, if you're that way.
You can feel that way, but you can go, like, the courageous part is to go and call it out and to call a meeting with your boss and say, here's what's happening out in the world. You've given us mental health days. I mean, you gave great examples. You've given us mental health days, but how and when are people really going to take that? You know, you can make it a report from the field to just say, here's what's happening and here's what's not working, and make it something that you report on and then leave it to them. And if they don't respond to that once you put it on their plate, that's another piece of evidence that maybe you need
you can carry with you and take to
before you make it. I just don't make those moments about me so much. I just tend not to do that. Look, I was raised by my father, so I have tendencies that are a little bit male. I know that.
It's okay.
So my game face is A+, and I just don't go into spaces or move through spaces like that. I learn the way I walk and talk from a man. And so I would never let that down, not in a million years.
Yeah,
that's my wiring, right?
No, that's fine. I was speaking to the extreme, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, my business part of me. Yes, my business point of me would have been like, I would have been crying in the bathroom, but I would have got myself together. So when I walked out there, you would have saw the straight face, no games. Okay, I'm gonna present you with X, Y, and Z. But I might cry before and after. I give you.
In the car, on the way home, you can scream and cry all you want.
All that. My mother's my vent outside of Siobhan.
I was raised by 2 engineers. I am completely on that left. That's not my go-to. I just don't like making emotional people feel bad. I'm not that emotional. If I get to the level of emotional, everybody should run.
Yes.
Right. It's about
I have seen her emotional, I want to say twice, and I was like, I don't know what to do.
Everybody should duck and move because I
don't know how I could help her because she's not like this. What I don't you don't want to hug. What you I help like that's all I could I can help. What you need? Just tell me what to do. Okay? Because you're emotional. That's not normal.
Right now.
So as we come to this conclusion, this has been wonderful. It has been so great speaking to you. What is your final thought to help us in this business environment, whether we are CEOs, entrepreneurs, cogs in the wheel, whatever we are as human beings, to make our best space for us mentally to not only just survive, but y'all know we had a whole episode about surviving and thriving and coping, but to thrive in our situation.
I mean, I'll go back to something I said and just put an exclamation mark on it. Know your value, know your worth, know your skills, and know how back to the pivoting idea, know how to take that value out into the world and move it somewhere else if need be. I really do think it comes down to that options thing. I know I've never been more unhappy or angry or desperate than when I felt like I was boxed in somehow. And that was a lesson. I will never do this again. I will never get myself hemmed into this corner in a way that I can't move. And I think it's imperative that you figure out what that is. I also do think, I did say it's not necessarily about starting your own business necessarily. Not everyone is built to be an entrepreneur, but I would put it on every woman's radar. I mean, look, as long as we are still making 70 cents on the dollar, I could get underpaid and own the thing that I do, right? I could think about it. Like, you could actually make 30% less because you're running a cupcake shop now, and because it doesn't pay as much as your last job, but it's a straight up salary that is 30% less than you were making, but it's yours.
Mhm.
And I find it very hard to look a young woman in the eye and say, just get on the treadmill and grind until you make it in this environment that is not going to be hospitable to you, that's not going to be welcoming, that's not going to be, that's going to create stress in your life with people that you're fighting uphill against. I think we all more just, it's the next step from that, acknowledging when you see a job description that I don't need to do all 20 things, I can do 18 and I can pitch for this and I can win. I think we all need to keep on our radar the idea of starting something of our own, whether it's something individual that you do, you make something and sell it on Etsy and that's your business. It's, you do something on YouTube and you sell ads against it, something individual, or thinking about starting an entire company and hiring people and building something. I think we need to put that on the radar more, because those are things where on your worst day, it's yours. You're not victim and subject to somebody else's whims. The whims are yours now. You get to be the one that sets the whims, sets the tones, and hopefully makes the workplace a little bit better for the people that come behind you, because you know what it's like when it's bad. And so you go out of your way to make that space better. So I just think thinking outside of being trapped in any of these places that we are, just doing everything you can to not feel trapped in those spaces. If it's getting another degree, if it's getting another certificate, if it's building another skill. And like I said at the beginning, something that is tangible. Those certificates say you have been trained in this. No one can take that away from you. So you just keep amassing things that give you options and give you room to move and shift and pivot, because stuff's just always going to come at you. It just always will. And you have to be able to bob and weave, keep your feet moving.
Yeah, keep your feet moving. Get that shuffle, that life shuffle going on. Basketball. Oh, I'm just kidding. So, ladies and gentlemen, just to wrap it all up, what Miss Alma, the beautiful Miss Alma, the knowledge that she has given us is just simply this: one, acknowledge. After you acknowledge, don't sell yourself short.
Ever.
And ways not to do that: objectify your evidence, and if you got to write it down. Create your own resume of your life, not just for the job, your resume of life, the things you've accomplished and how you got there. That objective evidence can get you to the next step. And also it opens up your eyes to what are your other options? What are your other options? How can I take this and apply this over here and over here and over there and address those? And last but not least, community and accountability. Have someone that you can go and scream and holler to, someone who will encourage you, someone who will let you have your emotional moment and then say, okay, but what are our next steps? If you can't have that, therapy works. Get your therapist. I promise you, it helps, but always seek wise counsel. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we will say cheers to that. We would like to thank Ms. Alma for joining us today.
Yes.
It has been wonderful.
So much fun.
Conversation, so much fun, good times, and we definitely hope you got a lot of knowledge that you could take away from this, y'all. We should have told y'all grab some water and a pen and some paper to write this stuff down. Okay, but you can always go back on YouTube and rewatch it again and again and again. Get
Press
you a
pause.
glass of wine. Right, press pause, get you a glass of wine, piece of paper, take some notes. All of that good stuff. So, Miss Alma, thank you. We will definitely have you back when we are sipping our glasses of wine.
Yes.
You better do it.
We will.
We will.
Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the wonderful conclusion of a little something to whine about with your hostesses, Ty A. Michelle
and Siobhan Camille.
Be sure to join us each and every Wednesday for more laughs, more fun, and normally more wine. We go live every last Saturday of the month at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So be sure to check us out live on YouTube and Instagram at A Little Something the number 2, wine about. And remember, as always,
There's nothing wrong with a little wine.
or not.
Bye. Thank you for whining with us on this episode of A Little Something to Whine About. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to join us live the last Saturday of every month on YouTube or Instagram. And we'll see you next Wednesday for more fun, more laughs, and of course, more wine.